Happy Saturday. Welcome to the Paradigm Shift, episode 96. Often I get asked what your superpower is. I can tell you one of them is consistency, is that maniacal drive, is that unrelenting pursuit to fulfill your potential and then some, as Big Dave likes to talk about. Big Dave, you sex octopus, bringing you on right now. We're going to have some fun. A lot of exciting things going on in life right now. We're very excited for CLS Live, February 11th. I'm very excited to see Big Dave right now. He's going to look super handsome. And we have a very special guest on who we're going to bring on in less than 5 minutes. Author of The Miracle Morning. 3 million copies sold. No big deal. 3 million copies sold. Let's get buck wild right now. And I do meet buck wild. Yeah. Everybody drop in the chat right now what your current state is from 1 to 10. Me and Dave take full accountability to have you flying 15 out of 10 when this is done. You dig? I must admit, I am not the most technically sound. Not my strongest suit. That's why we're hiring and scaling and delegating.
What's going on?
You're back? I thought you were in Utah.
I was, man.
True.
That's why they built airplanes.
That's fun.
I had to come back to see my son score 2 touchdowns last night to win his little 7-on-7 game, but the game was so late I fell asleep, so I couldn't watch it.
That's awesome, though. 2 touchdowns. What a stud. It's great to see you, as always.
Yeah, man. Just thinking of you, having a great time, and I've been blessed, man. I've had 4 humongous stages in the last 6 days, and it's been quite a run, and just the impact. You know what's so fun about my life is for those people like you in my life who have extraordinary potential. Like, I'm just thrilled because I know where I'm at right now, and to see people like you that are going to be able to experience what, I was blessed to be with Tom Bilyeu, Jordan Peterson speaking today, these thousands and thousands of people, these stages, and pouring into them. But most importantly, the impact that you have over the years. I had a kid, when I walked in, I went to the VIP dinner, and I walked in, and the very first kid that came up to me, probably about 30 years old, and he said to me, "Hey, Mr. Meltzer, the only reason I'm here is I wanted to come and thank you." I said, "Oh, what happened?" He said, "Well, I just got married and living in my mom's basement and broke. And I asked for your help, and you sent me 2 books," he said. "Why'd you send me 2?" I said, "I always send 2, one for you and one to give away if you like it. And if not, 2 to be great paperweights if you don't like it or you don't read it." But more importantly, here he was, and he looked at me and he started to cry, and he said, "I just want to tell you," he said, "I'm a millionaire and I live in a mansion, and I want to thank you." And, it's those seeds that we're able to plant, and the more seeds that we plant, that's why I show up here with you on the Paradigm Shift. The audience is growing, and the people we impact. And look, along the way, the more people that you impact, the more people that also won't like you, Craig. So, that's going to be a part of it as well. And you're not doing yourself a favor if people don't like you or don't try to attack you. You're not doing the right thing, because it means you're not at your own frequency.
And also, if you're not finding people disagree with you, it probably means that your reach isn't extending enough.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Exactly. Like, if you only have 5 people, there are probably 5 people that are resonating with you. Sure. And you got to start with those 5, trust me. Even in sports agency, Lee Steinberg built one of the biggest baseball practices in the world. He sold it to Asante in Canada for $90 million. You know how he started? Jeff Morad went to the Olympics and signed 5 Olympians, right? He signed 5 Olympians, and that's where that started. And he treated them correctly, and they got 5 more, 5 more, 5 more. But as many as they signed, 10 times as many people didn't sign with Lee. And of those, at least 10% hated Lee, right? But you never would have known that if you just stuck to the first 5.
To add a lesson to that, which Dave taught me as well, for anyone out there that has someone that doesn't like them or agree with them, whatever the case may be, obviously the first reaction or response, because we're human, is probably to be offended. But then you take a second and realize the situation and you pray for their happiness.
Yeah, pray for their happiness. And look, remember, your frequency is the neighborhood. And some people will outgrow your frequency and they just have other things they want to experience. And, they may not even hate you, right? They may just find someone else that resonates with them. I do want to say one thing. I've learned about intuition and the idea of things resonating with us, right? I don't put any qualification on it. The other people do, and that puts in the need to judge conditions, separation, inferiority, superiority, which leads to a need to be right, a need to be offended. It's a waste of energy, time, emotion, value, and money. But for me, the idea of frequency resonation or gut feelings is an indicator. It's an indicator I need to raise my awareness to learn something. It doesn't mean, and I saw this in Vegas. I'm blessed to have the nicest podcast studio in the country with Blue Wire and right there in the lobby of Las Vegas, right? Chris Long, Chris Carter, myself. It's amazing. Like it's a billboard in the middle of the wind. And it's amazing because when you look at gambling, when I'm there in Vegas, so many guys will tell me, oh, darn it, I should have bet on that. I knew it was going to be a hard 8, And I say to them, you know what? That's bullshit, because you probably have sat here for a few hours and on 20 occasions you thought, oh, it's going to be this, and it wasn't. So here, 1 out of 20 times, your gut was telling you hard 8 and it hit, but 19 out of times it was telling you, hey, pay attention and learn something, not it's going to be a hard 8, right? And people forget all the times it tells you it's a hard 8, but it's not. And then the one time it is, they think their gut has some type of analytical skill to it. No, your gut is an awareness tool. It's an elevation tool that says, hey, pay attention. There's something to learn here, not telling you the answer.
So true. And now that you bring that up, like every time something happens that might have caught you off guard, if you take a second and realize that you probably had an intuition a little while back that something felt some sort of way. So beautifully said. It's funny because I had 2 awesome questions to ask you, which I was really excited for, but we're going to save them. We're going to bring on our guest right now. But before I do, I got to ask you, how many cute croissants did you consume today?
Oh, when it comes to cuteness, there is no middle-aged mutant turtle that is cuter than I. So I make sure I have a minimum of 3 cute croissants every morning, sometimes even a pain de chocolat croissant, which adds a little bit of sweetness to the cuteness that I have. So let's talk to a real author. And, there's not many around, guys who actually sell books. And I have the greatest esteem for anyone. You know what they say about books, Greg? If you write a book to sell it, don't. But if you want to make money, write a book. And I want people to understand the distinction between the two, because there's very few authors that can bring great enough content to make money from the book. But if you want to make money, write a book. But don't make money from the book, because there's only a few guys like the guy next to me that can do it.
Hal Elrod, thank you so much for joining us, brother. We're both big fans. We're excited to have you. Thank you for joining us on this beautiful Saturday.
Craig, Dave, man, it is a pleasure. It is an honor to be with you, man. Thank you.
And for the audience listening, let me just say this. If you're not familiar with Hal, do a deep dive, read his books, consume his content. What we're going to do right now is we're just going to dive into an awesome conversation. The Miracle Morning, your book, has sold north of 3 million copies. That's pretty unheard of these days, as Dave was attesting to. I wanted to ask you, because usually...
Well, unless you're an Obama or a king or a queen.
I happen to be all
easy.
3 of those things, Dave, so I triple threat.
I wanted to ask you, Hal, what was the inspiration for writing that book in the first place?
Yeah, great question. 2008, the economy crashed, and I crashed with it. And it was about a 6-month downward spiral where I couldn't pay the bills, living on credit cards. My house was foreclosed on by the bank. And a series of events led me to a quote from Jim Rohn. And Jim Rohn said, your level of success will seldom exceed your level of personal development. And the light bulb went off, and I went, I need to figure out the most effective personal development ritual to become the person that I need to be to create the success that I want. And I ended up with a list of 6 practices. I was like, what's the best? What's the best? Should I meditate? Should I read? Should I journal? Should I do affirmations? Should I do visualization? Is it morning exercise? And I had this list of these 6 practices, and the epiphany was, dude, what if I did all of these? What if I woke up an hour earlier tomorrow and I did the 6 most timeless, proven personal development practices in the history of humanity? I woke up the next morning, I did all 6, I fumbled my way through them, I had never really meditated, affirmations felt kind of goofy, but 2 months of doing this morning routine, and I doubled my income in the height of the 2008 recession. I trained and completed a 52-mile ultra marathon I had never run before, and I went to my wife and I go, sweetheart, this morning routine feels like a freaking miracle, like it has changed our lives. She goes, it's your miracle morning. And I was like, I like that, miracle morning. So this was never a book idea, right? It was a very organic. I then taught it to all of my coaching clients, and almost everyone said, I'm not a morning person. I said, no, neither was I. Here's how you beat the snooze button. I figured that out too. And 13 out of 14 clients came to their next call and said, dude, I'm a morning person. This is incredible. I'm having the best week in my career. I'm running again. I'm reading. I'm this, I'm that. And that's when I went, well, wait a minute. If this miracle morning thing changed my life, and I wasn't a morning person, and it's changing all of my clients' lives, this could change the world. It could change anyone's life. And so that's the answer. Is I wrote it. I just felt a sense of responsibility. Like I can't keep this a secret. I have to share it. I'm a slow-ass writer. So it took me 3 years to write, and I self-published The Miracle Morning on 12/12/12, December 12, 2012. It was self-published.
Wow. Dave, I know you're going to go nuts. This really excites me. I just want to say this. This reminds me of something that I'm really big on, and that I tell my community as well, is it's not so much the goal as it is who you become on the journey. And it looks like you doubled down on the process, and then the results come. Dave, take it away.
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm a numbers guy, so I'm a 111 guy, born January 11th at 111. So I'm always paying attention to that. But first of all, I have my biggest takeaway when I read your book, and I am a ritual person, meaning I utilize my obsessive compulsive anal retentive behaviors to my advantage. And a lot of people use them to their disadvantage. And earlier on in my life, I did with drinking and drugs and dumb shit. But now everything I lay into that obsessive compulsiveness to be consistent and persistent in the pursuit of my potential. When I read your book, one thing came clear. The simple things to do are unfortunately simple not to do. And it's one of my favorite, deepest sayings that I coach people on is beware of the simple things to do because they're simple not to do. And a lot of people, I love the fact you took these 6 timeless, proven. You don't have to reinvent the wheel, right? Go back to the Sanskrit, right? I have written behind me, right, the 12 rules of being human. The 12 rules of being human will tell you exactly how to achieve everything you desire in life. It's amazing. And it was written before writing. It was literally written in Sanskrit. And so to that end, I have just a quick question though, because from the Miracle Morning, I also have an unwinding routine. So my Miracle Morning, with that idea of your basement as your skills and your knowledge, that I can utilize my desire in the right trajectory. Do you now have, I have an unwinding routine. I would say my tomorrow starts today. My Miracle Morning starts at 9 p.m. to put myself in a position of recovery and access for the 4 a.m. I wake up at every day.
I call that the Miracle Evening, right? It's probably the most requested book in the Miracle Morning series. When you can write the Miracle Evening. So my evening routine, and I do say in the Miracle Morning book that a Miracle Morning starts the night before. It starts with your intention and your preparation, right? And if you think about it, the first thought that we have in the morning is almost always the last thought we had before bed. If you go to bed feeling stressed about something, as soon as your eyes open, you go, oh God, the day is here. When you were a kid, if you celebrated Christmas as a kid or like your first day of school, you went to bed so freaking excited the night before, you were just energized. You probably didn't even sleep well because you were so excited. But as soon as your eyes opened the next morning, you were flooded with that same emotion, that same excitement. And I realized that we can recreate that every single day by setting a very clear intention before we go to bed. So my evening routine it's comprised of a few really simple things. First, it's finishing eating, minimum of 2 to 3 hours before bed so that my food is digested and my body's not working all night while I'm trying to sleep, right? You know, if you eat late before bed, you're going to wake up feeling like you were hit by a truck because your body was working all night. I also take some supplements in terms of like valerian root, melatonin, that kind of thing before bed to help wind my body down. And then I start reading about 45 minutes before bed. I read for 30 minutes. But it's a very important distinction in what I read. I only read a book that I've already read before. So when I read a book, you can look at any book I've read, I just open randomly. It's always underlined, it's starred, right? Like it has, I take a lot of notes. So I'm really thoughtful and I read really slowly because I want it to be a resource that I can go back to over and over and over again. When I'm getting ready for bed, I don't want to be in the mindset of, oh, I got to really figure out which parts I want to underline and what's the most important lessons. No, I just want to kind of relax. So I read a book that I've already read. All I'm reading are the underlines. I probably underline 20% of every book that I read, but I can revisit and reread it in 20% of the time. So I'm reading a book that I've already read. I'm reading just the underlines that I've, from when I read it. And I'm reading a book that makes me feel good. So it's almost always a book on spirituality. Like right now I'm rereading 2 of Michael Singer's books, Living Untethered, his newer one, and then The Untethered Soul. I have next to my bedside table, I've got a drawer full of books. I've got Byron Katie, Loving What Is. I've got Neil Donald Walsh, The Essential Path. So I just reread these books over and over and over and over again because, right, when you read it, it reminds you, oh, you're free to feel however you want to feel and be at peace. And, happiness is, and you're like, oh, yeah, right? And then I close it. And then the last piece of the evening routine is the last 15 minutes as I'm drifting off to sleep. I'm just thinking about what I'm grateful for. And I'm just feeling deeply grateful as I drift off to sleep and peaceful. And when I wake up in the morning, again, your first thought and feeling in the morning is the same as the last one before bed. I wake up feeling totally at peace and grateful, which to me is my favorite way to start the day.
He has this down to a science. I must confess, I need to be better at eating shorter time, actually a longer time before I go to sleep. That's something I'm definitely working on. David, I see you smiling year to year. What gives?
Well, you got to eat more too, Craig. You're fading away to nothing. And a big shout out to Michael Singer, though. Surrender Experiments, actually probably one of my favorite books of all time because so many people don't understand the conflictual nature of surrendering and the counterproductive idea that they have in their head and how it's probably the most productive thing when we shift our paradigm, no pun intended, to what's interfering with our potential. And everything in the Miracle Morning really helps to identify what we're doing to interfere with that potential, the potential for the day. And I think it's important for people to realize that the 3 different time zones that we live in, the past, which is yesterday and beyond, is infinite in its nature, and that we have to give a meaning to the past. And a lot of the exercises that are in Miracle Morning and soon will be in the Miracle Night or Miracle Evening or whatever you want to call it, because I know that's another bestseller, will deal with, what meaning are you giving the defining moments, the inflection points, but also the relevances, the historical relevances, the content relevances of your past. And what most people haven't come to is the grip that I own my past. I give it whatever meaning I want, and I might as well give it a meaning in the trajectory of where I want to be in the future for the Miracle Morning. And then the Miracle Morning sets forth the present, which is limited by 24 hours. So how am I utilizing, and those 6 things that we go over in the Miracle Morning allow us to be more efficient, effective, and statistically successful in a trajectory of the unlimited future that we have. And we actually allow ourselves to clear that interference to the abundance and unlimitedness. If you could, though, write another book, my next books don't do business with dicks. I just think that too many people waste their time with assholes, and they waste their time worrying about assholes, focusing on assholes, or doing business with assholes. And those assholes can be in your family even. You can let your family members fall away. You don't got to, dote and live on all of the interference just because they love you too much and they're too afraid for you. But, what's one of the things for you about your next book, is it going to be The Miracle Evening, or is there something else that's
So
really
there are 3
germinating
books right
in
now
your soul?
in the works, actually kind of 4. So the next book is The Miracle Morning Updated and Expanded Edition. So I've been working, that's been in the, for 10 years, I've been thinking someday I'm going to write The Miracle Morning Updated and Expanded Edition. I mentioned The Miracle Morning's been self-published for the last decade. Now it's traditionally published in 100 countries. So it's translated in 37 languages, and that's traditionally published. But in the US and Canada, it's still self-published. Well, finally, it's, so people that aren't shopping online and they're in Target or Barnes and Noble, right? They're not getting that retail exposure of the book. So it will publish traditionally, most likely September of this year. And so that's the next book, the updated and expanded edition. And there are 2 bonus chapters being added to that book. Number 1 is The Miracle Evening, right? So before the book comes out, that chapter will come out. And number 2 is The Miracle Life. And The Miracle Life is the next, that's the next big, major, original book that I have been writing literally for the last 2 years. And the essence of The Miracle Life is, it's a total paradigm shift, pun intended. Literally, it's a paradigm shift. Most of us have been conditioned to think that when good things happen, I feel good. But when bad things happen, I feel bad. And I'm not in control of how I feel. The things that happen to me determine how I feel. And the paradigm that I'm offering through The Miracle Life is you get to feel however you choose to feel, regardless of your circumstances. And real quick, for those that don't know my history, when I was 20, I was in a car accident. I was hit head-on by a drunk driver at 80 miles an hour. I was found dead at the scene. My heart stopped for 6 minutes. I was in a coma for 6 days. I broke 11 bones. And when I came out of the coma, they said I would never walk again. And within a matter of days, I was smiling, I was laughing, I was joking, even though I was crippled and I couldn't move, I couldn't walk. And the doctors thought I was in denial because I was so happy. They thought I was faking it. And it wasn't that at all. It was, well, I can't change that I was in a car accident, so there's no point in feeling sorry for myself. There's no point in wishing it didn't happen, right? That time frame you mentioned, the past, right? It did happen. So I can't change that I broke 11 bones, and if I'm in a wheelchair the rest of my life, that may be my fate. The only thing I get to choose is how I experience every moment of my life. And I can either be miserable, or I can be grateful, I can be happy, I can be optimistic, all of those things. And I want you to think about that. You often can't control what happened to you, right? You never can control what happened to you. You can't control the economy. You can't control the government. You can't control other people. The only thing you can control is what's going on inside of you, how you feel, how you show up in every given moment. And so that's the miracle life, is the realization that, oh, wow, I can actually live a happy, amazing, extraordinary life, even if my circumstances are difficult, painful, or miserable, right? I can accept them as they are. Yes, I'm going to work on making them better, but I'm going to enjoy every moment while I do that, versus thinking that the enjoyment is off into the future, waiting for me to have to accomplish something. No. I'm going to enjoy every moment of my life while I create the life that I want.
This is unbelievable, straight up. And when I think of Miracle, like the franchise moving forward, it's like Harry Potter, but the Miracle edition of all real stuff. And it's funny because I was going to ask you, because I was looking at your content, which everybody should be, and I know you're big on 3 words. I know you're big on 3 words, but you just addressed them. Can't change it. And also, I personally think one of the keys to life is being able to manage your emotional state, because when you're in that high vibe, that high frequency, you're a problem solver. You're looking at what can go right, as opposed to lowered state, what can go wrong, and then all of a sudden, all the problems, you feel like a fireman trying to put everything out. So that's something I'm always working on, and it's been a key to life for me. Dave, take it away.
Yeah, I've been studying a unification formula by a physicist, Rulin, Dr. Rulin, and she went to Berkeley and Harvard, and it's soul plus energy equals matter equals 1. In that context, though, there's a mathematical equation that I've come up over the years about miracles. And Craig, you know this, it's what you pay attention to plus what you give your 5 levels of intention to, which you have complete control of. So if I pay attention to whatever it is that I think I want in the future today, and I do say, think, believe, and feel it, feel being the emotional, the highest level of intention, attention plus intention equals miracles. And it is a mathematical formula. That's why I'm spending a lot of time right now studying this formula of unification, because I think unification is absolutely something when you're trying to empower over 1 billion people to be happy, teach people to make money, help people and have fun. It has to be a unified effort, a collective consciousness. And at a mathematical level, I like to understand things physically, metaphysically, and quantum physically beyond. And there's no doubt that these miracles in the miracle series is part of the unification formula, as well as part of the miracle formula mathematically that I've created. And it's never a surprise when I see someone that's passionate, purposeful, and profitable, how they got there. And I love the fact that you're helping people get there themselves, because, you know, this is my symbol right here. You know, one hand up asking for help from those people ahead of us on the mountain, and one hand behind us pulling everyone else to where we are. And that's what your books are doing. And if you ever need any help, man, just let me know. I will be happy to promote, amplify, modify, whatever you need. I'd love to be of service or value.
I appreciate
so
that.
thank you so much.
I will take you up on that, I'm sure, Dave. I'm making note as soon as we get off here. Dave said, all right, I'm gonna hit him up. Yeah, brothers, I appreciate you, and thank you guys for your leadership, and thanks for bringing me into your community. It's an honor.
And I just want to say this, probably not supposed to say it, but Dave, you only live one. One of my favorite episodes of all time. I love your energy. I love your thought process. And I love how you break things down. And we didn't even get into this, so we'll bring you back for sequel. But I know both of you are so big on fulfilling your potential. Thank you both so much for joining us. For the audience, go check out all Hal's stuff. And obviously, Dave, thank you so much for being my consistent, committed co-partner.
All right.
Yeah, man. Thank you. You guys both have a great weekend. Pursue your potential. We love you, man. Go buy that book. Even though the new ones are coming, you got to read that one first before you get the expanded edition, and then the Miracle Life. It's all coming out. Make sure you buy that book. You got to support people that are supporting us.
Hal, we're going to
Thank
connect
you so
after.
much.
Thank you, guys.
Looking forward to it.
Reach out. Thank you, guys.
Paradigm Shift episode 96 in the books. Wow. We got, in the next 4 episodes, Dave and I have E.T., Eric Thomas, Ed Milet coming up. The show's expanding. It's growing. We also share with our audiences. All we ask of you guys, if you love the episodes, share them. And then obviously go support our guests. In this case, Hal Elrod, the Miracle Morning. Awesome human being. He's up to some great things, guys. Check him out immediately. Buy his books, all that stuff. And let him know. Shoot him a message. Say you heard him on the Paradigm Shift if you weren't familiar and that you really enjoyed it. We love you guys so much. One thing that you can guarantee, as long as we're able to, we will be back and back and back. Me and Dave are absolutely committed, and we'll stop at nothing to show up every Saturday that we can to add value for your guys' lives and do the best we can to showcase some nuggets, strategies, mindsets, and heart sets. Ken's in the house, Alexandra, Aleska, we love you all. Let's sharpen the axe and set ourselves up. What you do today sets yourself up for tomorrow. The Miracle Morning and the Miracle Evening, baby. Love you guys.